The story begins in a peaceful city, but from time to time, these people will be interrupted by some giant demonic ogres who will intrude their town, hunting down everyone. We see the civilians trying to hide and survive from the ongoing attack. While this is happening, a mysterious-looking man is seen riding a giant dragon, and he explains to us that ever since he was a young man, he's always wanted to become the strongest person he can possibly be so that he can protect those around him. And also so no one can ever take anything away from him. This guy happens to be the savior of the city and the only person capable of eliminating these demonic monsters. With just a single move, he burns the ogres to the ground and conquers their demon race within a matter of seconds. Right after that, he tells us that he has finally become the strongest exorcist known to man. But due to him having this power, it was the very reason that these monsters came to the city to try and challenge him, thus making the king order for his arrest. They ultimately ruined his reputation and even took away his students, turning everyone else against him. He was once the strongest exorcist who ever lived, saving everyone, one against demons, but he has now been demonized himself by the very people he once saved. He makes a promise that in his next life, he will not make the same mistakes. Then the man casts a spell to purposely reincarnate himself in another world and escapes his previous life to avoid being hated by everyone. After being reincarnated, the strongest exorcist has now been reborn into a 5-year-old boy named C, the third son of a very noble family. They seem to be a family of mages who specialize in all types of magic. The other sons have already been born with incredible magical abilities, and his father is trying to perform a ritual to see if his youngest son has any magical abilities like the others. But the ritual fails, and the father informs the rest of the family that C has no power inside him. So, his siblings laugh at him for being an embarrassment to the rest of the family. After being looked down upon by his siblings, C goes outside to the garden where he picks up some leaves and secretly performs a magical spell all by himself. C can remember his past life memories as being the strongest exorcist and manages to release what's called a Shikami spell. The leaves turn into some rats, and other leaves turn into ravens, and they will now protect him while he lives in this other world. This is when his older brother named Giawai tries to bully him about being a non-magical user, and then these birds come back just in time to save him. They stop Giawai from hurting C. After that, his other brother named LT heads over and tries to help out Giawai from C's ravens, as he didn't know he had control of the crows and didn't see what happened. It has been a few years since that moment happened, and it is now C's 7th birthday. But unlike his other brothers, C does not get to celebrate his birthday, and most people who live inside the mansion just ignore him. So, he lives a pretty lonely life, but there are a few people who do like C, and one of those people is his maid named Aoife, who normally has to gather C's items and belongings that have been taken by his brother. After Giawai visits C's room and starts to tease him about joining the prestigious magical academy, which will better his abilities, as he knows that C's dream was to study magic and be like everyone else. He calls C many names and tries making him jealous about him being the better brother. After their father arrives and tells Giawai that it's time for his training, before they leave, C quickly asks his dad if he can also join in on the training today because throughout his whole life, he's never had the chance to even be around the training ground. His father eventually agrees, and they all head down to the field. When the 3 brothers enter the training field, LT, his other older brother, is chosen to practice first, and he unleashes a green spirit magical spell. Giawai is up next, and he performs a fire spell, which impresses his father. Lastly, C is chosen to see if he can do anything at all. He takes the wand off Giawai. When wielding the wand, he stands in position, and then C talks inside his own head and tells us that he doesn't really want to reveal his true abilities of sorcery to everyone, as he doesn't want to become another powerful person in this life and have everybody hate him once again for being too powerful. But in that exact moment, C has had enough of everyone in the family treating him like he's a failure and said that the strong will always prey on the weak. So, he reveals a blue ice and fire spell, shocking his brothers, as C must actually have some kind of magic inside him after all. Giawai asks his father how C was able to produce a blue fire spell, as the blue fire is not normally possible to do in this world and is rarely seen at all. But his father tells him that some people possess a different kind of magic powers, which all stems from that person's true nature and their spirit within themselves. After showing them that he's capable of performing magic, C asks his father if he can start learning more about magic too, just like his brothers. But his father disagrees and says that it would be too dangerous for someone born with his heritage to study the magical arts, as C's mother was only a common girl, unlike his brothers, as their mother was a famous witch and noblewoman of the city. However, his father tells him that instead of learning the prestigious ways of magical arts right now, instead, he will be given a tutor in order to help him understand more about magic, as his father thinks he's too weak to enter the academy or study in the hierarchy. So, C agrees and begins to study by reading the books inside their mansion. We then have a change of scenes, and C has grown up a bit as he is now 11 years old. He has read and studied about everything he can in this new world and also explains how in his previous life, he managed to store many Akashi, otherwise known as Yakai spirits, within him that he defeated in battle. And now, they listen to his commands whenever he summons them. C remembers these things from when he was the exorcist, so he decides to see if these Yakai spirits will assist him in this new world. He only wants to summon a non-lethal Yakai at first to see if it still works. He then creates a door, which opens up to a different realm, and then the Yakai spirit named Yuki appears. However, C is surprised because in his previous life, Yuki was already a grown-up woman. But in this life, she appears to be an adorable but slightly annoying girl who won't leave him alone. She asks C why he summoned her to this world, but C tells her it was only a test and then tells her that he can't afford for anyone to see her. So, he transforms her into his small fox form outside C's room. Aoife accidentally spilled some water on GLY's feet, and he gets extremely angry at her for being a useless slave. But right then, he tries getting closer with her and tells her she can repay him for this by visiting his room later. However, Aoife doesn't know how to respond to this, and just then, C arrives to help Aoife. He tells GY to leave her alone, but GY responds by swinging a blow at him. But C blocks his attack with ease. This infuriates GY, as he is the older brother, and GY constantly mistakes C for being a little weakling all the time. But GY secretly knows that C must be stronger than he looks, so he just walks away, shouting that he will pay for his actions. After saving Aoife, she thanks C, and then she explains how she desperately needs his help with something that happened outside. When outside, they see a blue mythical creature laying on the floor and seems to be almost dead. She asks C if there was any chance he could revive the creature, although she understands how C's magic seems to be much lower than the rest of his family. So she understands if it cannot be done. But right then, he tells her to turn around, and he performs an unknown spell from his past exorcist life, which brings the animal back to life. She asks him if that was some kind of healing magic, but even though it was a different spell, he just agrees so she doesn't ask too many questions, which might lead to her knowing that he was actually reincarnated. After this, C suspects that Aoife can also do some kind of magic herself, as Aoife seems to always know about things that most people don't know. And that's when she reveals her elemental powers to C. However, she explains that this is her only magic feat, which seems pretty useless to her right now. However, the elementals do listen to her commands, and this seems to interest C a lot. He then casts a fire spell to see if Aoife can make it disappear. After she screams at the fire, it fades away, and thus making C proud of her. And he can now take her in as his companion. After discovering Aoife's powers, C is walking through the mansion. That's when his two brothers ask him if he would like to do some sword training, as he lacks in every other aspect of the family, so he must try to become good at least something so that he can be considered a real asset to the family. But right after, some of their maids rush in screaming that there is a monster on the loose and that their father used fire magic against it, but to no gain, and that the monster is now making its way through the forest and will be reaching the mansion soon enough. They all start to panic and are wondering when it will arrive at the mansion. But that's when C tells them he can already sense the monster is here, which shocks his siblings, as they can't sense anything at all. But C assures them all that the creature is right outside and to get ready to attack. GOI warns the maids and everybody else to find a hiding place as quickly as they can. But C doesn't listen, as he knows that Aoife was outside practicing her magic elements. So he quickly heads back outside to save her. However, the monster was right outside too and was about to eat Yo and the other maid. But suddenly, she forms a fire protection spell against the monster, and she manages to get away just before the monster attacks their mansion. C distracts it and calls out to the beast to follow him. And moments after, he rises into the air and casts a spell using various different elements which takes the monster down, leaving everyone in shock as they witness this weak boy defeat one of the largest monsters in the realm. After Aoife talks to the maid and explains how this spell not only brought the monster down, but C has also tamed the beast. C explains how this was possible due to his time as an exorcist and when he tamed the fiercest dragon in the world. So, he does the same thing to this beast and promises that this time he will use his powers in a much different way and become wiser, but also more cunning. A couple of weeks later, Lu sees C and Aoife off as they prepare to leave for the Magic Academy. As the duo embarks on a new journey, C gives Aoife a necklace made of Mona stones to help her attract more spirits. Everything's going as smoothly as C planned until the motion sickness kicks in, putting him in a terrible state. After a week of traveling by carriage, they finally arrive at their destination, much to his relief. At the same time, Blay is seen checking the time as he reckons that C and Aoife have already arrived at the academy. In another flashback, it is revealed that a mysterious woman left the young C to Blay after Gilbert, his younger brother, disappeared in the Infernal Lands while he was on a quest as an adventurer. The fact of the matter is that C is not Blay's son but his nephew. All the while, he is aware that C is special and that he uses a different power source instead of magic. It appears that Blay refused to send C to the Imperial Army because of the uncertainties surrounding his true identity, as he puts it. Depending on the environment, C could emerge as a true hero or a despicable villain. To escape a tragic fate, Blay sent C to the Magic Academy at the expense of his real son. Meanwhile, C slumps into the bed as he has yet to recover from motion sickness while Aoife tries to carry on a conversation with C. He says that her room is next door, with her cheeks blushing. Aoife asks C if he doesn't mind sharing a room since he has become her master now. Thinking that she only wants to have dinner with him, he lets her be disappointed. Aoife steps outside to buy her master some food. Just as she leaves, Yuki turns up and gives C a lecture for failing to read Aoife's signals. Soon afterward, the duo finds themselves at the gates of the Radia Magic Academy. At the registration, the aspiring students gasp in awe after learning that C is a lamp rogue. To start their admission, they are asked to put their hand on a crystal ball to check their mana levels and if they have an affinity for all 4 elements. Aoife goes first, and as expected by Blay, she has weak magical aptitude, although she possesses fire and wind affinities. When it's C's turn, the crystal ball does not react, baffling everyone as Professor Karen states that C might have light or dark affinity. He cuts her off, saying he simply doesn't have mana. Nonetheless, the process is just for registration, so C doesn't really have to worry. The students assume that the nobles are using their influence to get C into the Magic Academy. Hearing their murmurs, Aoife unconsciously conjures up a fire. A while later, AMU, another commoner, walks in. As soon as she places her hand on the crystal ball, a white light flashes, revealing that the girl is omni-elemental, surprising everyone. Before she leaves, C thanks her for shifting the attention away from him. Aloe makes it clear that she did not do C a favor, and just like the others, she believes that he's using his noble status to get admitted to the academy. While looking at AMU, C gets reminded of his prized disciple, as they share the same features except for the hair color. In a short while, the practical skills test begins. While watching the exhibition, C observes that most students use identical elements and that their power is mediocre. Just then, Aoife steps in for her turn, using the intermediate-level spells Flame Note and Wind Lance. The supposed-to-be magic-resistant elemental targets prove to be otherwise, with the spectators' jaws dropped open. Professor Cordell assures them they prepared spare targets. Seeing Aoife's growth, C can't help but feel proud as tears start to well up in his eyes. Following her lead is C himself, who surprises the students with his unique blue flames. While the fire is still not going out, he turns the granite into a pyate crystal. When C is asked about the spell he used, he deliberately ignores the professor, moving on to the last target. He summons a torrent of water and turns it into ice. Just as he finishes showcasing his abilities, Aoife tells him he left the other students speechless. As the test ends, the two proctors talk about how well C and Aoife performed despite lacking mana and having low magical aptitude, respectively. Having said that, AMU stood out among the students. After breaking all the elemental targets, for the record, she's the first student in the academy to accomplish this exceptional feat. The next morning, while checking the admission test ranking, C gets shocked to see his name in 3rd place, below Aoife who places 2nd. As expected, AMU scored the highest, leaving C thinking he might have just found the one. One night while the duo walks toward the auditorium for the entrance ceremony, C feels something strange. Checking the area, they stumble upon multiple spirits, which lead them to a dark magic circle in the woods. Before they head to the auditorium, C leaves some paper dolls to monitor the area. Once there, AMU delivers the commencement speech as the student representative. While sharing her reason for attending the academy, C feels an ominous presence drawing nearer and nearer. All hell breaks loose when the lesser devils barge into the hall, sending the students into a state of panic. Just as he's about to interfere, with the students barely leaving a scratch on the enemies, AMU shows them how it's done amidst the chaos. C realizes that the devils might just be a distraction. As soon as he finds the caster, he asks Aoife to escape. Back in the woods, free of witnesses, C confronts the devil named Gallus. The devil summons 3 more minions and commands them to attack the C. He easily dispatches 2 and transfers one of them to the void. After assessing the situation, Gallus decides to take him on by himself. C tries to incapacitate the devil with his paper doll, but to no avail. Outraged by the C looking down on him, Gallus uses his teleportation magic and manages to graze his cheek and wound his arm. Gallus then reveals his objective to take the hero down. The battle continues, and Gallus still has the upper hand. Upon seeing an entrance, the devil delivers the final blow. Or maybe not. There goes C with no signs of wounds whatsoever. Turns out that he used his paper dolls as body doubles to escape death and create an illusion that he keeps on reviving. Having had enough of playing around, he summons one of his strongest demon servants, Machi. And so, Gallus finds himself inside the dragon's stomach. Interestingly enough, Machi refuses to return to the void as it attempts to escape. Thankfully, he's able to send it back. At that point, he realizes that Machi rebelling against its master is due to his weakened body in his new world. Back at the academy, C's eyes widen as he witnesses AMU single-handedly annihilating the lesser devils. Seeing the students staring daggers at AMU, C remembers his past there and then. He's determined to befriend AMU and make her the strongest. For what it's worth, he doesn't mind living in someone's shadow as he promises to live a peaceful life this time. A month later, C tries to approach AMU, but the apparent Sunder keeps driving him away. While walking, a green fluid suddenly pours over the duo, prompting C to teleport with Aoife to a safe spot. Cordell hurriedly checks on them, revealing that the mixture has a monster's blood he's using for research. Seeing the clay pot float earlier, C confirms that the professor is a light element specialist. In class, Karen asks the top 2 students to assist her with the upcoming founding anniversary rite. They are tasked to deliver the new student roster to the temple in the Radia forest and have it blessed. Since C met Gallus in the same location, he asks Aoife to decline the request, forcing the professor to assign him instead. As the day of the rite arrives, Karen hands the register to C. Heading to the forest, AMU accuses C that he's trying to make a move on her, to which he clarifies that she had it all wrong. While teasing AMU, she suddenly feels a jolt of pain, confusing C. Looking around, they come across a magic circle on top of a cut-down tree. Unbeknownst to them, it is a trap, as they get transported to a dungeon. Lizard folks turn up, and AMU takes it upon herself to get rid of them. Just as she keeps her guard down, another monster appears. This time, C steps in to save her with a wood spell, which AMU has no idea about. While looking for the exit, he uses his talismans to light up their way. Judging by her reaction, AMU seems to be enjoying the present circumstances, and stumbling upon stronger monsters makes it more evident. Unfortunately, after eliminating a horde of monsters, a troll knocks her out cold, prompting Psyche to summon the giant centipede. In one go, his demon servant clears their path. Upon waking up, AMU gets shocked to the core after noticing that the monsters have been dealt with and her wounds are gone. However, her chronic headache stops her from talking. To ease her pain, C puts up a barrier that blocks off curses. AMU reveals that her headache started when she enrolled in the academy, but she believes that it's not a curse. C thinks otherwise, since the barrier stopped her headache. So he suggests searching for a curse mark on her body. After careful scrutiny, C fails to find any mark. In the meantime, he asks for a strand of her hair and attaches it to his talisman as her substitute. This way, she won't have to stay inside the barrier for comfort. As they engage in a casual conversation, AMU learns about C being an illegitimate son. He takes his chance and asks AMU about her family, to which she reveals that her mother is a guild officer while her father is an adventurer. This is the end. Subscribe for the next part.